Welcome to Mindful Life, Mindful Work, Thoughtful Work Thursdays. My name's Jonathan Reynolds. What we do here is really simple. We talk about what it means to work thoughtfully or mindfully. And if there's viewers, then they can type their questions into the comment box and hopefully I can respond to them and we can have a little bit of back and forth. Until folks show up, I usually talk on a topic, hopefully something that's relevant to you in your workplace. And as always, whether you work at home alone, which many of us do during the pandemic, or whether you work in a small team or for a big company, hopefully some of these suggestions will be useful. Today, what I'd like to talk about for a little bit is meetings and really more generally transitions. And so I think it's really important. I think that workplace cultures have gotten in the habit of just go, go, go. And some of that's really important, of course. But I think sometimes it doesn't honor the humanness of what it actually takes to shift gears into transition. And so the example I'll use today is primarily meetings, but hopefully you can see ways that this applies across the board and into other situations. So let's just talk about meetings. I mean, usually when we're meeting physically, and there's a group of us sort of showing up in a room or, in the place that our team has meetings, people are arriving from other places. And so we don't really know what happened before. They might have been on a personal call. They might have been on a sales call or a difficult internal call. And so people are coming from all over the place. So people are not in the same, even though they're in the same physical space, they're not in the same space. They're actually, there's been no preparation for most folks to actually arrive and be together in the way that the meeting requires. And so what do? Well, if you don't do anything, that's just what it is. And that's why many meetings feel scattered and stuff doesn't get done. And so I think whoever's leading the meeting, it's their responsibility to recognize that, if you got 3 people showing up or you got 20 or 30 people showing up, that all of these different experiences are showing up. And when you really honor that, when you recognize that, then you can hold space for it. And sometimes that's just a simple arrival. And some of this happens naturally. Some of it happens, the first couple of minutes, people are just sort of chatting about their day and things like this. But I think that it goes deeper when a leader actually encourages it and sets the tone. And that could be something like a mindful minute, like let's just pause for a second and everybody sort of recognize that now you're in this meeting and this is the topic and this is the intention and this is the theme for what we're going to discuss. So sometimes that is just a really valuable thing to just, okay, everybody, let's have a little space, a little gap in the transition to reset, to sort of repoint your arrow for this next hour or however long the meeting's going to be. One of the things, and you might have heard me say this before, is I like to envision experiences like a bell curve. So a meeting is no different. It hopefully starts out a little bit slow and then has a peak near the middle time-wise and then tapers. And so, a lot of meetings that I've seen and been in, it's just escalate, escalate, escalate. And then at the peak of sort of intensity, time's up and out into the world, out to your next thing. And so if meetings are being run like that, of course, you're sending people sort of in a fiery way back into their next thing. And if they show up to the next meeting or your meeting because they were in a previous meeting that was designed like that or lack of design, then that's part of the reason why employees and team members are burning out, why they're not present to the meeting they're actually in, and why things aren't working so well. So again, I like that bell curve strategy. And so again, in the transition points, in some ways, the most important part of a meeting or any other experience is the beginning and the ending, is those transition points. How you enter an experience and how you exit experience determines to a significant degree how the experience went and whether it can be integrated, metabolized, whether action can be taken on the content of the experience. And so I think there's this care to process in designing our meetings, designing transitions, designing all of the experiences. And again, you're not going to be able to do it all the time, but meetings are already sort of this set, scheduled thing. Why not allow for a minute in the beginning and then a minute at the end? For instance, with my company, Mindful Life, Mindful Work, if we have a meeting of 3 or more, we're going to sit for a minute in silence and just sort of arrive. And then at the end, maybe it was a heated discussion, maybe it was a really, happy discussion. Regardless, at the end, we sort of say, okay, let's just let whatever was said, heard, or felt sort of like find its way in our experience. Let's just let the body metabolize what just happened, and then go on to your day. And I think this is really central. And I think it's often, and it's so easy to do. It's one of the amazing things that often gets missed. And it can be a little awkward initially. It's sort of like, oh, we're going to sit here in silence, and we've never done that before. And there's an awkward silence. But I think that it's worth it. I think that it's to say, hey, we're doing this as sort of an act of both self-care. We care about each other as people, but also, we care about ourselves as a team, and we want to be a high-performing team. This is one way that we can take it to the next level. So hopefully you find this suggestion helpful. Again, for meetings, for transitions, for all experiences, notice how you enter. Notice how you enter a room when you enter a room of people. That's going to inform how it goes. Like, so for instance, when I'm coaching people around networking, for instance, if you show up to a networking event and you don't say hello to the first person that approaches you, it's going to be a hard event for you, because that sort of sends a signal. Even though people aren't paying attention consciously, it sort of sends a signal. This person's difficult to approach. And if the first person walks up, you just say a big warm hello and you have a big smile on your face, well, that leads to the next person and the next person and the next person. And so the way that we enter experiences really matters, and sets the tone. So the same in a meeting. If the first thing out of somebody's mouth is yelling, well, that's going to be a terrible meeting. Even if the content is great, even if the design is great, even if it's quote unquote efficient, it's not going to get the results that the leader wants. So again, attention to transitions, attention in particular to meetings and those transitions, but then all transitions. See other areas that this might be useful in your life and work. So again, hopefully you found this helpful. Again, this is Mindful Life, Mindful Work's Thoughtful Work Thursdays. If you post anything around the web, please use the hashtag MLMW Thoughtful Work. And my name is Jonathan Reynolds, and thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you found this helpful. Take care.